Propelled by a few icons from the world of high horology, the integrated bracelet sports watch category has become insanely popular in the last several years. And although the original premise of this design style is best traced to ultra luxury segments, the recent surge is a sheer byproduct of the variety of attainable options that have become available, including the Tissot PRX from a few years ago. Well, the roller coaster of all things integrated is not ready to go to a complete stop just yet. Well, at least that is what Certina hopes is the case with the release of their DS-7. So I would argue that Certina is incredibly underrated, being a Swiss brand with a history dating back to 1888 with a few watchmaking innovations that have given the brand some serious credibility in the arena of tool watches in particular. When talking about the tech, I am mostly referring to the DS or double security system unveiled in 1959, which is Certina's proprietary approach to shock resistance accomplished by encapsulating the movement within a flexible rubber ring intended to absorb shocks without interrupting the watch's timekeeping. Given the more utilitarian approach, DS watches were also known for their pioneering efforts in water resistance, with Certina dive watches being famously used in the Tektite underwater habitat trials in 1969 and 1970, before becoming the issue watch for the Royal Australian Navy clearance divers for much of the 1970s. And even today, Certina is still going to be using this DS system in their watches, and also, including their dressier models, will offer a minimum of 100 meters of water resistance. But with Certina's excellent collection of dive watches receiving the majority of the shine, some other great watches within Certina's modern collection fly a bit under the radar. Unveiled last year, the Certina DS-7 is a great example, offering a lot to like for an integrated bracelet sports watch from a Swiss brand, while in addition also offering a titanium case option and a less seen case option for integrated sports pieces with a diameter of 39 millimeters. So in this video, what we're going to do, go through all the basic information about this watch with the general review, and then at the end, talk about where it sits in the broader landscape of integrated steel sports watches under $1,000. For any watch attempting to find its place in the busy integrated category, probably the most important area of discussion is going to be the case and bracelet, because given this integrated construction, you are more tied to the factory offering than usual. Here we have a mass appealing 39 millimeter case diameter paired with a slender 10 millimeter thickness. Measuring in that lug to lug, you will find it comes in at 45.3 millimeters. However, if you include the end link, you will then see it go over 50 millimeters. That said, I would say splitting the difference of these numbers is the most accurate representation when you put it on wrist. Meeting the case at around 21 millimeters in width and attached by the way of a 10 millimeter center link, the bracelet is of an H-link style with polished inner portions of the links to contrast with the otherwise brushed bracelet. Tapering to around 17 millimeters, the bracelet terminates with a push button butterfly style clasp constructed from milled components. As is often the case for butterfly style clasps, there is no micro adjustment feature for dialing in the fit, and we also aren't getting half links in this instance. Given the smaller size of the links themselves though, most shouldn't have an issue with sizing these up, though the lack of complete micro adjustment could leave a select few out of luck. The central case exhibits a majority brushed look with smaller hits of polishing traversing the slender bevel along the case sides. The bezel, which is stepped, offers a lower element that is polished and also PVD coated on certain references, a motif that is repeated as the central case gives way to the screw down case back. At 3, a polished 6 millimeter push-pull crown rests within the safety of angular crown guards, working with the case back to enable this model's family's 100 meters of water resistance. As a note, there are several finishing schemes available within the DS-7 collection, including the fully stainless steel option, stainless steel with PVD accents, full gold PVD, and even a titanium case and bracelet option at an impressively small premium. Set underneath a flat sapphire crystal with anti-reflective coating on the underside only, the DS-7 has a straightforward dial that clearly had mass appeal in mind within the design room. At its outskirts, an elevated minute track is complete with linear printed markings for the minutes, with large rectangular indices at the 5-minute positions. Depending on which reference you ultimately go for, this track is either color matched to the dial or executed in a contrasting color, and is of the case for the black dial. Just within, applied linear indices manage hours with a combination of polished and faceted sides and a slender central application of luminescent material. At the center, stylized baton hands are again faceted and polished, with both the hour and minute hands again making room for the slender application of superluminova. Between the dial and the hands, the lume on the piece is useful, but not impressive, a critique that I would also apply to the PRX for what it's worth. Dial text is limited with an applied Certina logo at 12 with only DS and Powermatic 80 down at 6, apart from the titanium version, which will get another line. At 3, a faceted date aperture is going to give way to the date, and like the case and bracelet, there are several different finishes for the dials, with more of a matte effect for the black, sunray finishes for certain colors, and a striking fume for certain references. So if you are liking what you're seeing so far from this watch, TeddyBaldassarre.com is an authorized dealer of Certina. We have a curated selection on the site, and we are one of the few retailers in the US, especially that carry the brand. If this watch isn't as much for you, we also have a few dozen other models from the brand to check out. Check out the link in the description down below. Now, like many other brands within the Swatch Group, Certina utilizes the Powermatic series of calibers, offering an extended power reserve of 80 hours. I feel like a bit of a broken record at this point when talking about these, but for those that haven't entered and encountered this family of movements before, the Powermatic is essentially a modified version of the ETA 2824 that has been altered to allow for a reduced frequency of 3 Hz as opposed to 4 Hz to facilitate the longer reserve with a single barrel. In addition, Powermatic calibers also drop the traditional regulating organ and are instead of the free-sprung variety. Also, for clarity, as I have seen there being a lot of incorrect information stated about the Powermatics, these movements are serviceable and are able to be regulated. However, it would be correct to say that by dropping the traditional Etachron regulator, it is a bit more involved to regulate these movements, as you'll have to adjust the screws on the balance itself. This version of the Powermatic here is the ETA C07.611, which is like the .111, apart from it having a traditional escapement wheel and pallet fork. The balance spring is made of Nivicron, a special titanium-based alloy patented by the Swatch Group, which helps to alleviate the adverse effects against magnetic fields, shocks, and temperature changes. Now, while it is on display, the caliber is finished to a very utilitarian degree, though it does offer some polished components and a signed rotor to add a bit of interest, especially if this is one of your first automatics you're going to add to your collection. Speaking to timekeeping presented by the examples that we photographed here, all of them were keeping time within low single digits of seconds per day. We tested them all across 5 different positions. In terms of general operations for these movements, 21,600 vibrations per hour, 3 Hz, does feature hacking and hand winding, hacking stopped in the seconds when you pull the crown to the farthest position, and a power reserve of 80 hours. So let's address one of the questions I'm sure many of you have. Am I prepared to call this watch better than the PRX? That probably is a stretch, though in some ways, and for some people, it absolutely can be the better choice. The movement is the .611. You're getting a case size that splits the difference between the PRX sizes, which probably is the most important point, and is offering more case material types immediately out of the gate, including titanium. That said, it pays to be first, and I can't help but feel the PRX has more character with its design, being essentially a complete remaster of a watch that looked nearly identical from the late 1970s from Tissot, where this watch is more of a modern creation taking part in one of watchmaking's latest trends. No fault there, I get it. Yet ultimately on the surface, this watch is delivering on some of the missing points among the pack of integrated watches under $1,000. Is that enough to make it sit at the head of the table going forward with many other watches of its ilk? Probably not, but it does certainly deserve a seat at the crowded table. But all right guys, that's my take looking at this new Certina DS-7 Powermatic 80. Have you seen this watch in the flesh? I know that is probably not the case for many of you, but if there are any owners out there, love to hear just why you decided on this watch. What do you like about it? Maybe some other things you're not as much of a fan of. Just get some conversation going down there, because this is a piece that I think could be interesting for many out there. If you enjoyed the video, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe, and hit the bell icon. Really do appreciate that. Also check out TeddyBaldassarre.com, full authorized dealer of over 30 brands, quick and fast fulfillment, dedicated customer support, and a full factory warranty for all the products that we offer. Guys, thank you again so much for watching. Be well, and I'll see you all very soon.